Hello, my stamping friends. This is Renae Novak at BlessedByCards.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and I'm here to share with you another weekly Wednesday tutorial. Today we're going to create this cute box. It is great for gift giving. You can put Christmas tags in here. You can put cookies, candy, little tiny thank you cards, whatever your heart desires. But this is such a cute little box, and it is created using one sheet of cardstock. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to need is a piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, your choice of color. I chose today the evening evergreen, and you're going to want to do some scoring. So you want to put it in your scoring tool in the portrait position, which is the shorter side at the top. And you want to score it along that 8.5 inch side at 1.5 and at 7. If you prefer, you can do it at 1.5 on both sides. Just flip it around. But I did it at 1.5 and 7. And then you want to rotate your cardstock in your scoring tool, and you're going to score it 1.5, 5 1/4, 6 3/4, and 10.5. Now all of these measurements and a PDF download will be available on my blog at BlessedByCards.com. So as soon as you get your scoring finished, you're going to want to bring in your paper snips, and we're going to do a little cutting. So what you want to do is along this skinny narrow side, you're going to want to remove these two tiny little end pieces. And I like to miter my front of my box just a tiny bit. You don't want to miter it too much because you do want your box to close securely. And if you miter it too much, it'll be too wide of an opening. So just a little snip off that to give it a finished front edge. Then you want to rotate your cardstock, it doesn't matter, either side. Along both sides, we're going to cut up all the score lines to the very first intersecting score line. So you just want to snip up each one of those, going along like this with your paper snips, rotate it around, and do the same thing on the other side to cut up all of those score lines. Next, you want to miter all of your edges so that they have a little bit of an angle to them. So you just kind of come in and cut at a slight angle to all of the pieces. After you've done all of that cutting and mitering along the edges, this is what you will have. And you're going to have your skinny part here that is the top, and all of these are mitered just a little bit. Then you want to take your bone folder and you want to fold and burnish on all your score lines and get a nice crisp edge. And then what I did was I just laid my box down flat, and then I folded in all of my tabs. So it doesn't matter which side you lay your box, whether it's skinny to the right or skinny to the left. Just fold those tabs in and apply your glue. So now all you do, bring those edges up and create your box. So they come up and they meet on the edge. And that will be assembling your box. And then you'll have the little front tab, and then these two little pieces go inside. Now, if your box doesn't shut, that means that you maybe were a little too frugal on your mitered edge, which I was, because it's better to go back and take off some than have too much. So I'm just going to miter a little bit more so that that box will now squeeze in, fit down, and close. There. And it closes up very nicely. Now, another thing that you can do to make it easy for your box to open is if you take a 1-inch circle punch, and I just like to come in and eyeball that, not even halfway, but just take a little punch out of there. That just makes it a little easier for that box to close and shut. And there you have a nice front opening for your box. So now we're going to do a little stamping and create a little decorative top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a piece of basic white cardstock, and I'm using the Snow Wonder Snowman from the Snow Wonder Stamp and Dies. And I'm just going to ink up with a little bit of black memento. And I'm just going to stamp that straight down on my piece of white cardstock. It can be a little piece of scrap, but I will have the measurements of the size that I used for you on my blog. And then you're just going to line up the coordinating die, and you're going to run that through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So that you didn't have to wait for me to do that. I already pre-did that for us. And the next thing you're going to want to do is take a little bit of color and bring out that snowman. I've chosen the colored pencil for his hat, just a little bit of black and gray. I like to mix my mediums with colored pencils and blends. So I'm just coloring a little bit of that black onto the hat. And then I'm just going to take the cherry cobbler, and I'm just going to put a little color on that. Now, you can also, come in and color some areas here on your scarf so that you can give a little more dimension to him where he's at. And you can just bring that down with that blend, and that just covers nicely and gives a little decorative scarf. And that is the cherry cobbler. Then I came in with the Granny Apple Green, and I just added that to the holly leaves on his hat. And then I just came in and put a little around his scarf just to give him a little old-fashioned scarf look. And this is, again, the Granny Apple Green with the cherry cobbler. And that is so stinking cute. And then you can come back in with your pumpkin pie and make a nose on him. So we're going to set him aside for right now. And then we're going to bring in our piece of white cardstock that measures 3.5 by 5 1/4. And this is what we're going to stamp on to create the background for our snowman. And he's going to fit, this is going to fit right on top of this box. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the little trees from, again, Snow Wonder. And I'm using the evergreen. And so if you're stamping, you want to make sure that you get an even tap. So sometimes I like to make sure that I tap a little bit in the middle of my stamp. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball this skyline for these trees. And I'm going to add some snowbanks with some basic white cardstock. So I just took a piece, and I think this measures 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to simply tear that. It doesn't really matter how you want to tear it. You can just let it rip, or you can kind of control where it's going to. And that creates some different snowbanks. That's going to go right on top of here. And I'm going to bring in some smoky slate ink because I like to use a little bit of a sponge dauber on the end of my little snowdrifts just to give it kind of a little depth when you're looking at it. So it's not a whole lot. I just flick it on there a little bit, and then you can kind of decide where you want your snowbanks to be. Now, if you want your snowbanks down farther and your trees are going to show, another thing you can do is come in with the blender pen, and you can just add a little bit of highlight with the gray under each one of these trees. That will just give each tree a little depth on the ground and make it look like perhaps the snow is melting around it. I think I'm going to put this one more towards the top and layer a second snowdrift for my snowman. So I'm just going to bring in my liquid glue, and I'm just going to put it right on here, and I'm going to just line that up and create a snowbank. And again, if you want a second one, you just add a little bit more glue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry a little bit, but I'm going to cut off of the edge, and then we will apply our snowman to the front of the card. Okay, so I'm going to come in here with my paper snips, and I'm just going to trim off right at the edge where that 3.5 inch strip is, so that it will fit on top of my box. And then we're just going to add him right here. And then we're going to bring in some cherry cobbler. And I have chosen the greeting Merry Christmas. You can choose whatever greeting that you want. I'm just going to stamp that right there. And the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in, again, the Smoky Slate ink. And I've chosen the snowflakes from Peaceful Deer. I really, really love those snowflakes. They're just so sweet and simple. So you want to just stamp snowflakes in the sky. Now we're going to bring back in the box. And here's our box that we created. And here is our snowman that we created. And all we're going to do is we're going to put some glue on the back of here. And we're going to adhere that down. And then that makes our stinking cute little box that you can create. And it'll open up and you can put whatever you want inside. I think I'm going to put some tags and things for Christmas gifts. So thanks for watching. That is it for our weekly Wednesday tutorial. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any future videos, and share with your friends. And until next time, be blessed.